One, go. Now we're recording. Check it. Episode 154 of the A2 Show. Wow. Here we go. And we're joined today by the great photojournalist Amber Bracken. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for coming on the show. Why don't you give us, or why don't you tell us a little more of what you do, who you are?
I don't know. I'm a photographer. I'm a photojournalist.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. I guess the first step we thought. So I mean, I'm a filmmaker and I do documentaries sometimes, and like capturing like an image of someone is completely different than writing a whole, like, we can go talk about the story or something. When you see pictures, it's a completely different story.
Pretty
So
much.
we were thinking maybe we can go through some of your pictures and you can tell us a little bit about the stories behind them.
So,
Perfect. Ali.
so yeah, I'm about to pull up your pictures here. Just give me a second while I, because my internet
On
is
the
a
road
bit
again, on the adventures of Canada. Can you tell us a bit about your travels, Amber?
Well, what do you mean?
We traveled around Canada, right?
Yeah,
Like
I travel
within-
around Canada and northern United States. A lot of my work has been looking at sovereignty movements in Indigenous communities. So that's taken me into the northern United States and even up into the Arctic a very tiny bit. So yeah, I don't think that there's that much difference between America and Canada in terms of their colonial
Indigenous
history.
people? Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is news to me. I thought, well, I knew there was like indigenous communities in the United States. I didn't imagine they're like, are they from the same heritage? The ones from Canada and the same from Northern America?
Many of them are, and I would say there's definitely lots more similarities between them than there are differences. So, for instance, the Blackfeet people are divided by the border.
The what? Sorry, say that.
The Blackfoot people, and
The
they're in
Blackfoot
southern
people?
Alberta and in Montana.
Okay.
And I don't want to say exactly where their territories go because I'm not like an expert, but
what do you mean by
border?
Blackfoot? Is that
It's a nation of indigenous people. So like in the America, you would say like a tribe, like Native American tribe.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
Okay.
In Canada, sometimes they're referred to as bands, but that's really like the colonial description. When they talk about themselves, they would say like, you know, I'm a Dene or I'm a Blackfoot, and they would say like Blackfoot Nation.
Blackfoot Nation? Is it like a country? It's like, or is it like a huge piece of land? There are a lot of people live there.
Well, I mean, before colonization, yeah, a lot of
I see.
people lived there, and they would have identified entirely by their nation, and they would have been sovereign to the territory that they were like living and hunting, and you know, sometimes farming on. Although farming was different, but at any rate, it's more like a recognition of their distinct.
That's true.
Distinct language, distinct culture, distinct history, and distinct territory.
Wow. Oh,
And they're
distinct race. I don't know. Like
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's interesting actually, more so. It's like you're talking about like the farming. I'm sure all of these colonial tribes at one point they were self-sufficient, they were farming, but now, from what I understand, there's a lot of like health problems in these communities because what they're eating is not the greatest food.
It doesn't just have to be that though.
It's about like poverty and alcoholism, and from what I understand, correct me if I'm mistaken.
No, there's lots of health issues and
Yes.
social problems in many of these communities, but it all comes back to this issue of colonization. So that's where I say the colonial history of America and Canada are not that different. So some of our methods were slightly different, but at the end of the day, what we did was violently dispossess an existing population of their territory. And then they were herded onto these small reserves and, withheld their ceremonies. They were withheld the resources that they needed to,
live. Withheld their ceremonies. Like, what ceremonies are they stopped them from doing?
all of them. They were literally outlawed in most places in North America. They weren't allowed to dance. They weren't allowed to have their potlatch. They weren't allowed to, their ceremonies were criminalized and outlawed. They could literally be put in jail for, performing their.
And that's because of their race? And
yeah,
that's
because of their race, and because the government wanted to westernize them. That was generally the idea. That's why they had these residential schools.
Mm-hmm.
So like where you see in America right now, you've got the immigrant kids being taken at the border from their parents. And it was horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But that happened for generations to Indigenous people and Indigenous communities, where they were the government would come and literally take the children away from their parents and put them in these schools, and the schools were often very abusive. And the whole point of them was to westernize them.
Schools are abusive. What?
Have you never heard of a residential school? You've never heard of a
We're two Arab guys. The only schools we know are the British system school, and that's about it.
Middle school, high school, yeah,
pretty much.
But, yeah, so this is.
I'm trying to remember what the name of them is in the States. They were a little bit different. They might have been called I can't remember the name in the States, but in Canada they were called residential schools, and they were run by churches. And a lot of kids were so they would get there, they would cut all their hair off, they would give them clothes, they would punish them for speaking their language.
What?
There was widespread sexual and physical abuse. There's kids that would die from disease because they were fed so poorly, and the buildings were often really subadequate, so they were drafty and cold, and kids would get sick, and then there would be like a little mini pandemic that all the kids would die. I mean, it's really, really an awful, gross history. And the whole point of it was to basically teach the kids to be white.
No, I mean, I believe that.
Let me.
Now? Sure.
I just want to pull it back a little bit before we lose track of it. You said there was a lot of health diseases health issues, let's say, between the Indigenous. Is that what you prefer to call them? Indigenous Americans? Because I don't know what. Okay, so I think the real problem there is it's just too much inbreeding, apparently, from what I've studied, is because you put a tribe of people in one location, they're forcing themselves to be, isolated from the rest of the world. So they're marrying off cousins, and that shortens the gene pool and causes the expression of more.
I would not say that's true.
Okay, I mean, that's not all right.
No.
Is it not?
I think that's absolutely a misunderstanding.
Okay.
There was a lot of disease that came with colonizers from Europe that nobody in that whole continent had been exposed to, so they had no
immunity for it.
Thank you. That's word. No immunity for those diseases, but no, inbreeding was not an issue.
Oh, was it?
I mean, we're talking about vast tracts of land. Think about the entire continent of North America and South America.
that just hit me. That just hit me. I'm sorry.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah,
these nations traded with each other. I mean, extraordinarily long distances. There's trade routes that go all the way down into South America that would reach all up into the northern tip of what's called North America now. So I mean, no, they were not isolated, and they were not inbred. There was lots and lots of
fair,
cultural exchange of goods, exchange of DNA. They were definitely trading broadly. It was really their world, honestly.
Because that's how it is in Arabia, by the way. Just say, you have families that are very strict on who they marry their offsprings off to, and it ends up being cousins or close relatives, and
but it's different. Yeah.
I mean,
what are your thoughts on that, Ali?
I would like to assert my Fifth Amendment rights. No, I'm kidding. I don't have any thoughts. It's I already I told my thoughts about that kind of stuff to my dad, and let's just say things didn't go as planned. Moving on. Right, we got a few of your pictures here, and I have to say some of the most beautiful photos I've ever seen, online, and I'm gonna quickly just share it right here. So here we have.
All right, let's start with this one.
Yeah.
This one,
Holy
Amber,
moly,
yeah,
you guys did a deep dive. That
from
is so
2012.
old.
Yes. This is actually your
187
first Instagram photo. So, the start of your photo journey. What is this?
All this is just it's a original Instagram snap. This is not serious work at all. Honestly, this is a cell phone picture on a road trip, and it was just very frosty.
Wear boots.
Wear boots. Is that your Canadian?
I'm sorry.
Canadian.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
That's somewhere between Calgary and Edmonton. That's Alberta in the winter.
Oh, wonderful.
On a frosty day.
On a frosty day.
Yeah, maybe this is exciting. You're in LA and you're in Kuwait, so you probably won't see this very often.
So, you want to see the picture of the first time I've ever seen snow?
Yes, I do.
This is everyone's gonna laugh because I was a real fat ass back then. Here, let me find it. Twitter. So this is it right here.
Oh wow!
Look at that.
That's me and you.
Yep, that's the first time I've ever seen snow, and it was in January. There we go. You want to read it out loud, Ali? What it says?
I can. Let me see it. Yeah, sorry. Throwback to January 2019, the first time I saw snow with Ali Haejl. 1 year later, we started a podcast and hosted lots of great people. It's only upwards from here. Heart. Praise sign.
Heart. Praise sign.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And in the photo, for the Spotify listeners, it's me and Ali. And
back when I weighed 140 kilos.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And Amber, can you guess what we're doing? I don't know if you can see, Ali, if you can zoom into my hands.
I don't think I can, though.
Snowballs? Are you making snowballs?
Oh.
Yeah, we'll give it to you. You're close.
Mini snowman? I don't know.
It's a snowball, and it's fresh snow right off like the sky, and he's pouring like Diet Coke on it, and he forced me to eat one.
Yeah.
Emphasis on forced.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like right.
So that's the first. Yeah, that was the first.
Wait,
one.
where was it? Where did you find snow for the first time in January of 2019?
I mean, we didn't find it. It was in Lebanon, the mountaintop. So it's like there. Yeah. But coming from the desert, it's me. And going and seeing snow for the first time, I was like super amazed. I was just like, wow, it's actually white. Like, who would have known? Like, the only snow I've known is like orange, and it's everywhere, but it's there all season. Sand. That was a sand joke.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, if you have orange snow, you're probably
there's something definitely is wrong. Something is definitely wrong if I had
wrong.
Yeah. But see, this is gonna be hard. The way you sent it to me, Eddie, we have the DMs all on the side, and I don't want to dox future guests, right?
Okay, just put them on a new tab.
That can work too.
No worries. So I want to circle back to, you were talking about the schools. A question I had is, are these schools happening right now where they're, what do you call them? Residential schools?
Mm-hmm. No, the last one closed in Canada in 1996.
Wow, that's like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's not, I mean,
it's not too long
30,
ago.
But yeah, it's not that long. It's really not that long. So it's not old history. And lots of families have multiple generations of these residential schools. And they would take the kids when they were 4 or 5, and they would let them go when they were close to 18. So, and they would be gone all year long. In some places they would go home off season, but the point was that they really fractured the family relationships. On top of all of the abuse and the trauma that they inflicted on these kids, they really fractured the family relationships, fractured the language and the cultural teaching. So, I mean, they didn't fully succeed because in lots of places there is, existing culture and existing language. So I don't want to like give the idea that that culture is erased. However, it was a huge problem. I mean, and is a huge problem for lots of these nations that are still trying to figure out who they are now that.
I mean, it's like
generations of this trauma, right?
Yeah, it's generations of trauma, as you said it. It's like if you're growing up as a kid and you're going through all of this hate or trauma, they're telling you shouldn't be who you are. They're telling you exactly like you're.
Isn't that very dangerous psychologically speaking? Like you're more prone to, or you're more likely to be like a either
It's
into.
yeah, it damages you.
I don't want to say it
mentally.
because
Yeah,
there
it
are
does.
the people who
No, but it hurts you. No, regardless, it can hurt you in a lot of
yeah,
different ways. Yeah,
obviously it does,
and it can
and
come
like
out in a lot of different ways, and it's
it'll listen.
traumatic.
It's like that old saying where if you haven't grown up in love, you'll struggle to find it later. So it's I don't know. It's very hard to hear about that kind of stuff.
Earlier, you mentioned like alcoholism and other kinds of social problems. Well, that's why I bring up the colonization. That's the root of it. So that's not to say that everybody in those communities is an alcoholic. It's not true. Absolutely not true. But there is, issues with substance abuse, and that a lot of it goes back to that original damage of the residential schools and the generations of colonization that still exists. So I mean, if people are messed up now, I just want to make it real clear that is, that's a colonial sin. That's from colonization.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is news to me.
But so that's where my work, what I'm often looking to do is document like resurgence, regrowth, reclamation, assertions of sovereignty, because the other thing that Canada and the United States have in common is that we have these like broad sweeping agreements. The treaties are legal documents. They're legal contracts between one nation, Canada, and the other nations, saying like the individual Indigenous nations, so like the Blackfoot people or the Cree people of different areas. And we have obligations under those rules, but the way that it's been interpreted in modernity is that it often is very patronizing. So it's that they get like a very limited amount of money, and the government's all up in their business telling them how to do it and how to run their lives. They don't have the right to say no to things. So all of that is like really not conducive to moving past this trauma, this damage that has been caused by colonization. And in many places, there's communities who are pushing back and asserting something different, asserting their inherent like sovereignty. And so those are the kinds of things that I'm interested in reflecting.
Communities with the inherent sovereignty. So can you clarify?
So you're saying a lot of hard words. Yeah. I promise you, I'm trying to keep up, but I'm just like, wait, what is okay, fine. Right, so let's.
So exactly.
See, this is what happens when you lag my brain like that. Let's roll it back a little bit. So
if we roll back to say that a treaty is an agreement between two nations, that's what a treaty is, right? So if there was, for instance, a treaty between United States and Mexico, there would be two separate governments. They would both be obligated to like follow certain rules in relation to one another, but they'd still be sovereign within their own territories. Having a treaty with the United States doesn't mean that Mexico has to let the United States tell them what to do with all of their laws, for instance. And so that's one way of treaties being understood, but the way that they've been deployed in Canada and the United States is that it's really a nanny state. So there's an Indian agent who basically—
A nanny state? Sorry.
Yeah, a nanny state. So it's like, it would be much closer to the state of Palestine in terms of like what it's like in reservations and within Indigenous communities, like on the band, in the band system. The government really tells them what to do in every aspect, tells them how to run their schools, tells them like
where they can and can't live, where they can and can't go.
Maybe not to the extreme of Palestine. So that's like a pretty extreme example. But at times it was like that. It was times they had to get passes to even leave the reservation. But even still, it's that the government dictates a lot of things within these communities, and it gets in the way of them finding meaningful solutions, because you've got a government in Ottawa or Washington telling you what to do in your small community in Pine Ridge, for instance, or your small community in Attawapiskat. And rather than like letting community-based solutions lead the way, right? Like people who live in a place know what to do. The people who know the community have better, more meaningful solutions. And so it's about like reasserting that kind of thing. And then when I say like inherent sovereignty, there's places where there isn't even treaties at all. So I've done quite a lot of work with the Wet'suwet'en, photographing Wet'suwet'en.
Wet'suwet'en? Wait, say that again.
Wet'suwet'en. So
Yeah.
they're an
Can you look them up, Pali? Yeah. How do you spell it?
WET, and then there's like an apostrophe. SU. Hang on, I can write it.
Why does my keyboard not have an? Oh, there we go.
Why does my keyboard not have a W? Wet? W-E-T.
W-E-T apostrophe S-U-W-E-T apostrophe E-N.
Mm-hmm.
Found it. Here we go. Check it out.
So their community, they've never actually, there's actually, if you look up.
Is it this, the first one?
Yeah, that's one thing, but you could look up a story I've done on them if you type in "The Nation Has Stood Up" by on the New York Times. The nation
that stood up
has stood up. Yeah.
Let's see what we get here. Oh, cool. All right, this is a story by the New York Times. The nation has stood up. Indigenous clans in Canada battle pipeline project. All right, thanks for reading the Times. Get your free account or log in. All right. Brilliant. You brought it to. Is there a way to do it? I think just
walk us. Yeah, you can walk.
You have All right. Do you have pictures of them on your website?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Pull up the website. Photo Bracken. Oh, is that your dog?
Yeah, well, that was my dog.
That was your dog?
These pictures are so old. This dog has passed away now.
Oh,
Rip Stumpy.
Rip Stumpy.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's do that. Let's go to your website, which is this, right?
No.
Over here. No.
No, that's an exhibit that I was in, an exhibition. But if you go just www.amberbracken.com. Yeah.
Yes. So the Dakota pipeline, I've heard about it a lot, and so from what I understand, the water going to these places is not clean. Am I wrong?
No, it's not. That's not the issue. It's that the Dakota Access Pipeline crossed the river that was serving. So if you go under client stuff and then Unist'ot'en is where you want to click. Yeah. Oh, just put any, it'll work. You can put mine in if you want.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, is he praying?
That's a hereditary chief. So he's actually making a statement. At this point, they were telling the pipeline people that they weren't welcome there. So this is in interior British Columbia. This is what is different about this than, we'll go back to Standing Rock in a second. But what's different about this is that these people have never signed treaty. They've never surrendered their land. It's never been taken from them in any formal or legal sense. It's more so that the government just sort of like acted as though they had, but there's no agreement whatsoever. So there's really no legal basis for where they are, where they're standing in this picture, and where all of the photographs take place. There's no legal standing for it to actually be governed by Canada at all.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So it's not within the Canadian border. Is this like an outside the land, or is it?
No, I mean, if you looked at it on the map, it's absolutely within the Canadian border. And common use for at least 100 years has been that it is a Canadian part of the Canadian state. Mm-hmm. But there's no formal agreement about that territory of land.
So they can do whatever they want, and they just move in and they build their own communities there.
No, they historically occupied that land for at least 10,000 years. And then the colonial government came, and basically by the time the government got to the West Coast, which is more or less where this is, the west side of the country, they were in a hurry to finalize confederation. They wanted to finalize the country, basically, so the states didn't take it. And so they kind of rushed through the end, and they didn't finalize treaties. They didn't get
With
treaties
Canada.
in place with a bunch of nations. So there's a huge tract of land, actually a large part of British Columbia has no treaties at all, which is like a little untested in court, but it means that it was never formally made part of Canada. It's just that common use has. And so a bunch of these nations are using that as a basis to push back. So in this case, this is the hereditary chiefs who are asserting their right to govern and determine what happens on that territory because there's no existing treaties. And because they've been there for 10,000 years, and because their governance structure is intact, despite residential schools. So it's really complicated.
No,
yeah, it is.
And it is, but it's becoming clearer. All right, let's see the next one.
Oh, now that's just beautiful. This is wallpaper art right there. Like, I can put this in the back of my background of my computer, and every time I open my PC and look at this, I'll just be super amazed. Wow.
I promise you, you've never been this cold in your entire life. I promise you.
I promise you, I never knew cold my entire life. You know how hot it gets around my country?
Yeah, you've never seen the heat he's got.
Yeah, I promise you, you've never been as hot as we've been. Like, this goes both way right here. Like,
sure enough.
Like, you guys go what do you do, Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius?
I do Celsius, but
perfect.
I can usually figure out Fahrenheit.
No. You're perfect. You're just like the rest of the world. That's great. We go up to 60 degrees Celsius in the summer.
No, come on.
Yeah, we
that
do.
Is so wild.
Can you literally be alive at 60 degrees? Like, wouldn't you just go outside and just like cook and like die?
No, our bodies adapted.
Yeah.
Like, inside, in your car, in the kitchen, in malls, there's AC everywhere. Otherwise, we'd all literally like die, as you said. And at night it goes up to 40 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
No, it goes up to. It's minimum.
It's gotten hotter now, right? Like you said, 60 degrees, but it hasn't always been this way.
No. It used to be colder back then, but now it's just because of global warming and all that stuff. And now it's like 60 degrees.
What's Amber in this photo? I'm just curious. What are you like? How do you have that? Is your lens like frozen?
It's actually, this is through a windshield. So I was in a car, and it was
I see.
It was very frosty because it was so cold, and it was taking a long time to defrost. So
wow,
it's so beautiful, man. I have this weird affinity for snow. I don't know why. I just really like snow.
Come to Canada, we have lots.
No, not to that extent. Like, I know my limit. Like, Lebanon's as far as I'll go when it comes to snow. Not that much, but nothing at all. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Let's talk us through this one.
So this is the moment when the police, the RCMP, are coming to take the Wet'suwet'en people and their supporters off of the land, because what's happened is the pipeline company filed an injunction against them, and that's a whole nother complicated thing. But there's a long history in Canada where when people file for injunctions against Indigenous people, they almost always get them. Like, they almost always are approved. And
injunctions against wait, can you, what is that? So what does that mean?
Oh man, you're asking me legal questions. You don't know it?
All right. Fair. We're just trying to understand. Yeah.
All you need to know about the injunction is that it's like a legal order from a court saying that XYZ has to happen or can't happen. So it gives the police power to enforce. So there's a dispute between the pipeline company and the Indigenous community.
Oh, I see.
The injunction gives the RCMP authority, quote unquote, to step in and enforce against them.
I see. Wait.
So here we go. Definition: an injunction is a court order requiring a person to do or cease doing a specific action, choosing whether to grant temporary injunction relief or, well, you guys can pause the video and read it, but yeah, basically what she said, right?
Yes. Okay. So wait, can you clarify this for me a little bit? So for people who really don't understand, like outside of the United States and Canada, so there are indigenous tribes, and there's a pipeline that's being built on these lands, and they like it's interfering with their lives, or am I wrong
Yeah,
about that?
no,
Yeah.
you're right. So
Okay.
the, the only place I'll push back is like it often gets framed that it's like an environmental rights issue, and while the environment plays into it, because for the people who are standing up here, the territory is very important, that they can use it for hunting, and so the environment of the territory
Yes.
matters.
Mm-hmm.
But what is also kind of glossed over is that it's like a sovereignty issue. So the idea that they should not, like, that they should be able to say no to development on territory that impacts them that importantly,
Mm-hmm.
that is something that's like part of their, like literally they've lived in these territories for 10,000
Yes.
years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of their identity, that if you remove them from the territory, you basically remove their identity to a degree.
Wow.
And
And
so,
that's why they can't join maybe like our Western community, or like not like Western, but it's like they're much more connected to their nature and to their land and to their people. So maybe it makes that more difficult for them to like move to California or
yeah, well, I mean, like
yeah.
they can and they do. There's lots of people that
Okay.
like they work in all different kinds of jobs, you know, like academia to like construction to you name it, like any
I
modern
see.
job that exists. It's not that
Mhm.
they're not contemporary in that way. It's more so I don't know what religion you are, and I don't want to presume, but it would be like
Well, we're Arabs. You can pretty much guess. Like, there's no other religion that came out from. I guess it's
um
not presuming. It's literally like pinpointing. We're
but
Muslims.
this, okay, so this territory where they're trying to defend is one of the last territories in their region that's like their
Their very
original.
own Gaza Strip. Let's say that.
Sure, yeah, but this is one of the last places they can hunt moose. It's one of the last places where they can get salmon. It's the headwaters to the whole region. So salmon and moose are really important to like their like traditional diets.
Mhm.
There's medicine, there's berries, there's even just like a pristine and safe place that their ancestors walked where they can do ceremonies and things like that. So to destroy this territory to them would be the equivalent of like, I don't know, what's the where does the Pope live? Like
Vatican.
Vatican
yeah,
City.
to the Catholic, it
Yeah.
would be like,
Mhm.
exploding Vatican City, or like,
Yeah. Mhm.
like pouring oil all over Vatican City.
Yeah.
So
Mhm. Wow.
making it so that that you could never visit there again or couldn't use it in the same way. And so that
Mhm.
like that's what they're standing up for,
I
is
see.
the
I see.
right
Okay.
to
It's like
practice their culture and their belief system in a traditional, yeah.
mhm.
Well,
So this is a
this is a heavy image right here. Like, this is just. It's hard to like. Let me tell you. Let me explain to you what I see, and tell me if I'm right about how I perceive that or no. How about we do that? Or do
yeah.
you want to just?
That's actually a fun game. I like this. I'd be curious to know
All
how
right.
this lands without having the background information. So
Plain and simple. I'm a very blunt person. This looks like police brutality.
yep.
I don't. Okay. Let me maybe add my thoughts.
Go ahead.
I don't see any like anyone getting hit or anything. So I don't know if that's maybe brutality, but I see people begging to the police.
Where's
And
he reaching
so,
for?
oh, he's reaching for his gun. I see.
Or it looks like he's reaching for his gun, right?
I see. Yeah, that's
So-
fair.
And he looks
Yeah.
like he's pushing people off, right? And they
Okay.
all look like they're just not really, like, they really don't want to be here right now in the background.
But those guys in front do.
Not that
Yes.
they do, it's just that, oops, we're in the front lines. So pretty much.
So,
But yeah,
that's the word that you used. You used the word front lines, and this is a small group of unarmed and peaceful, like people reoccupying traditional territory. So this is not like this is not a militia. This is not like some kind of like violent uprising. They're explicitly and clearly nonviolent. And the response that they had was these guys coming out of helicopters carrying semi-automatic like weapons. There was a guy there who had a sniper rifle. There's like, you know, dudes on boats and in the woods. It's militaristic. So you use the word front lines. It's a militaristic response to what amounts to a very small group of peaceful people.
So to them, it's the front lines, but to the rest of the normal thinking world, it's just like a protest. It's a normal protest. There's no need for all of this.
That is true. It's just a normal
like
protest of small people. I mean, it's
I literally do not
strange,
see
right?
anyone that looks harmful from the like from the people. Not even look harmful or look like they're intending to cause harm.
And it's your right to speak up for yourself. If you have a thought, that's to speak up. It's our human right. So I don't know why.
So I would equate this. It's not quite a protest because it's like the way they think about it is a reoccupation. So it's territory that they've been pushed off of, and so by like they've built cabins there, they live there. So they're reoccupying. It is a little bit like Gaza in the sense of like you want to like who gets to live there, right? So by building their homes there. But like you could kind of equate it to like, you know, the lunch counter sit-ins of the civil rights movement where people would sit peacefully where they thought they belonged to be, like where they had a right to be anyways. And then there would be this like huge over violent response where you'd have soldiers coming down the street to pull little girls out of cafes, right? Like it's like just disproportionate. That's like what this is to me anyways. It's disproportionate.
I see.
Here, we'll do a few more. So here, what I see is disappointment, really. Like, I don't know what about this picture just yells disappointment right at me, but like maybe it's the fact that it's dark and she went, or I'm assuming that's a woman. That's a woman, is it?
To be honest, I'm not sure anymore. I don't remember.
I mean, I see long hair, but then again, that's not very definitive of a woman. But I see this person who looks, you know, just beaten and sad and going home late. Am I right?
This is a tent?
Yeah, it's just it's one of the structures. So like this reoccupation. So sometimes there's cabins like that are a little more developed in like up the mountain, like 66 kilometers in, there's a 3-story structure with running water and heat and laundry and like the whole thing. However, some of these locations are pretty scrappy to begin with. So that's like a canvas tent. They're a 4-wall canvas tent. And you can put a wood stove in them. So for like setting up a place for people to stay and live and work for a little while. That's like, yeah.
Amber, could you tell us like what area they're in? Is it North Dakota? Or
no, this is in Canada. So
this is in Canada.
If you go to, are you going to Google it on the map?
I'm gonna Google Maps it.
The closest town would be Houston, British Columbia.
So
all the way from
you're just scrolling. Okay. Sure. Okay, so British Columbia is kind of to the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, like right here, right? It's about there.
No, that's Northwest Territories.
Below it, dude. It says
go down.
Oh, BC. Here we go.
Yeah, okay. So if you follow that yellow, see Prince George, Houston.
Prince George, right?
Yeah,
Houston.
and then to your left, Houston. That's where, that's more or less, but like back in the hills, like a ways.
I see.
Around here?
The hill area.
Yes. So actually you're going far to the left. So it would be more to your right and then down. No, that's too far. It's okay though.
It's somewhere here.
Can you hit it in satellite mode, Ali? Can we see in satellite mode?
Sure. I mean,
well, actually, I've never looked at it on the satellite. I wonder. I don't think that any of the structures would show up, but
no, they wouldn't. Huh?
Like Mount Maurice would be in the region. There's kind of a river that comes up from Houston. That would kind of be.
Oh, the reserve.
There's the river.
See that Maurice River? The Wet'suwet'en people actually call that Wet'suwet'en. Maurice, a bunch of things in the area are named Maurice. And he was a really like documented abusive priest who like sexually abused and did all kinds of terrible things, like created like pulled people out of potlatch, and I don't know, he was a bad guy. But so a bunch of things are named after him, so they don't like to use that name
I
their
see.
places. So
Well, how
Nice.
do you say it? What was the name they like to call it?
it's, well, their name for their river is Wudzinqua.
Wudzinqua.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
It's
All right,
amazing.
great.
Listen, I love that culture, right? Like,
Why
I
do you
fell
love
in.
that culture?
I'll tell you why. I fell in love with that culture in Assassin's Creed 3, right? The whole
Okay.
story was based around Native Americans or indigenous
Mhm.
Americans, and it does a good job in showing you how abusive colonizers were at the time. And it's just like, I can kind of sympathize for them because I see my brothers in Palestine going through the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but the thing, I don't know. I'm
Yes.
like, it's
Well,
just
yeah. What? So let's. I know we're almost running out of time.
yeah, we
but
are. We're like very
yes.
close.
Mhm. If people want to learn more about these indigenous people, how is there any movies you can recommend?
Yeah, actually, I will shout out a couple of movies that are in the development state right now. So we never really talked about Standing Rock, but there's a really excellent documentary film that's actually it's crowdsourcing right now, but it's called The Sacred and the Snake.
The Sacred and the Snake. All right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's honest, it's made by some really well-connected people, and is the closest, I've seen several documentaries, but it's the closest to actually what it was like to be there that I've seen.
Okay.
So it
What
was
to be where?
at Standing Rock.
What is? Can you tell us a little bit about Standing
What is
Rock?
Standing Rock? So
Mhm.
Standing Rock was the one that you mentioned in the beginning, Dakota Access Pipeline.
I see. Hmm.
So that was the one that originally the pipeline was slated to go through the white community just north in Bismarck, and the community there didn't want it, and so they pushed it down to the reservation just south of them.
Yeah.
And then when the community didn't want it there, it escalated into this giant encampment that had upwards of 4,000 people staying there at the height of its opposition. And even though Dakota Access Pipeline ended up getting built, it became it was like a seed moment where people got connected and revitalized movements that went back all across the country, even the world. So there's still things happening because of what happened at Standing Rock.
Wait, sorry. Is the pipeline fully built now, or is it still being built?
It was built. In fact, I think it was one of the first things that Donald Trump did when he became president was he signed an executive order
to finish it.
Yeah.
I see, and it's done now at this point.
It's done, but I have to check my facts. But I feel like it got it was temporarily shut down because they had like some kind of spill, or like there was one of its permits got revoked. So it's not like a done deal, but right now I think it's turned off. So it's completely built, but I think it's turned off.
So at this point, what do people want? I know it's like the pipeline's already been built, but the indigenous people, what are they trying to fight for now?
It's been a while since I've been there, so I don't want to speak for those communities.
That's fair.
But I will say that in general, like, again, at Standing Rock is the same as at Unist'ot'en. It's easy to understand it as an issue of a pipeline. It's not about a pipeline. It's about recognition for the treaties. It's about getting equitable deals with the government. It's about getting recognition for this like brutal history. I mean, in the region around Standing Rock, so that's Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota people, they have this long history of the Black Hills. Have you ever heard of the Black Hills?
What are those?
The Black Hills are the sacred space for their
oh wow.
It's the place where they I don't even want to characterize it because I don't know enough about it, but it's sacred.
Do you have a picture of it, Ali? The Black Hills?
The Black Hills.
Of where?
They're in Dakota.
In Dakota.
But the Black Hills are the sacred place for their people, and they were promised to them in the treaty. They actually have it signed into treaty, and then then somebody discovered gold in the hill.
Oh, and it's like Avatar.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
Pretty much.
Oh no! So what's happening now?
The government just backpedaled on their deals with the community, and they opened it up for these gold rushes, and then it ended up being settled. whole huge history. So it was just taken from them, even though there's a signed agreement saying that it's theirs. Now they went to court for it. I'm going to say in the 90s, and the government agreed that they had wrongfully taken the Black Hills from the people. However, they wanted to give them money. They just wanted to pay them
give
for
them money. Yeah, to pay them for it.
And that's not what the community wanted. They wanted, yeah.
I see.
How pretty is this, man? How
beautiful
is this?
Yeah.
But so these are the kinds of issues that they're still trying to unravel. And so all of these things, remember when I said that if things in the community are messed up, like if people are dealing with addictions or like other social problems, it always comes back to this colonization. So there's a lot of movements that are trying to unravel this colonization. They're trying to establish their right to decide for themselves. They're trying to establish enough space and resources that they can actually heal. And everything, if you do anything but restore a fair deal, it's always going to be piecemeal, and people aren't going to be able to really recover. And so that's what this is really about. I mean, it's about the pipeline, but it's really about everything. It's about our relationship.
A respect between the two kinds of people, right? It's like if you start stepping on other people's territory and there's no repercussion for it, I understand if you start feeling helpless, and then if you're helpless, all bad things can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's what's happened, is that through these bad deals and then sneaky deals, like taking the Black Hills, bit by bit, piece by piece, these communities have been disempowered. But it's wrongfully disempowered. They have a right to reestablish themselves. And so that's what they're pushing for, is like recognition of the treaties that we would go through and actually honor the deals that we made. You know, that those are not, even though they're inconvenient for us at this moment, that they still are obligations. It's not something that you get to decide not to commit to. So.
Yeah, if there is a treaty, then it's an obligation, especially if you damage it. It's more than money to restore. Yeah,
pretty much. No amount of money can restore any of this, but unfortunately, we have reached our
time limit here.
Yeah,
Amber, can you tell us? You said just a little more. Some of the movies. I want to interrupt you. Just say some.
Okay, so I would say go support Sacred and the Snake. There's a short film on Unist'ot'en called Invasion, and a longer film is in the works. So I would check in on those.
All right, cool. Have you ever seen Dead Man with Johnny Depp? That's a movie about Johnny Depp plays this guy who runs away from society's getting chased out, and he goes to indigenous tribes and he starts living with them. And it's a beautiful movie. Yeah, so check it out.
Check that out.
Check it out.
Thank you for watching another episode. If you have
thank you for watching another episode.
Please do subscribe, like, share. Amber, is there anything you'd like to shout out or let the world know?
Oh man, I don't know.
Check out Amber's Instagram. We'll leave a link to that in the description below. Give her a follow. Let her know we sent you if you did follow.
If you want to support the communities, Amber mentioned some movies that are crowdfunding, so I guess go help them out.
A to the show. Up there, and
subscribe if you learned something. Do you know that 75% of people watching this right now aren't subscribed? And it's very easy. Just click the button.
Yeah,
that's it.
What are you doing with your lives? Just subscribe already. Amber, what happens if they don't subscribe?
I don't know. They get a pimple?
You don't want that. It's gonna be painful. Right.
This is how we usually sign out. Salute to Cover the Cam, and peace.
And they think I stopped.
But you didn't?
I stopped for a short time, and then I went back again. So it's like
you have a podcast, Teleshnaya bottle in your
What about you, Sharif? Let's jump onto you, Sharif. Do you have these fears of sharing your beliefs with your parents?
Actually, my parents know almost everything about me. It's really liberating, man, when you with your Masa and Saeed's case. He said the faith I was taught to him, and my faith was smacked into me. It's really liberating when your parents really accept you when you tell them everything. My parents both know I drink. My parents both know I have a girlfriend who I obviously have sexual relations with.